Good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming to today's new day for our Shade Tree Commission meeting. We have 9 members present, so we do have a quorum. We will be recording this meeting as long as everyone puts their thumbs up and is okay with that. So, as you know, we have been growing and trying to adapt and accommodate. We've heard many a suggestion and have been trying to get to the easiest place for everything. Today is our next step in that, and having the support of the city with what we are doing today. So we are going to be modeling after public meetings where we have public comments at the beginning of our meetings. It will follow our introductions because we do have somebody new to our Shade Tree Commission umbrella tree canopy, if you will. And after we do introductions, we will go to the public comment section, and then we will go back to our agenda. Regarding public comments, there will be 3 minutes, and anything that is in need of an explanation or an answer will come in the form of email following the meeting before the next one. And Nazine is also joining us. Thank you. So now we have 10. And if there is any other housekeeping I missed, somebody pointed out to me.
Maybe just for the sake of internet calls, if you're not talking, put your computer on mute so we don't get a lot of feedback.
Thank you, Jim. Yes, 100%. So I am going to start off with our introductions, and I would like to actually give that started with Rebecca because she has spearheaded this. So Rebecca, if you wanted to start off with introductions, that would be amazing and wonderful.
Like introducing myself?
Well, Allie, and you know, and then we can introduce ourselves to Allie quickly.
Gotcha. Yeah, so we this summer have brought on Allie Temple, who is our new Shade Tree Commission intern, being overseen by me in the Sustainability and Resilience Division. Allie, if you wanted to introduce yourself, and she'll be working with us all summer on communications and all kinds of good stuff.
Sure, yeah. My name's Allie Temple. I'm a student at Penn State. I'm studying Earth Science and Policy, and I have a minor in ethics. I'm really excited to be with the Shade Tree Commission this summer, so I'm happy to be at my first commission meeting.
And then do we want to go around and just introduce ourselves real quick? I'm Rebecca. I'm a resilience planner at the city. Kristen? You're muted.
I'll get it someday. Thanks, Allie. You know, we go way back a couple days. I am Kristen. I take care of Chatham University's Arboretum and am lucky to be the Shade Share Chair. And we'll go on to Matt.
Good morning, I'm Matt Erb. I'm with nonprofit organization Tree Pittsburgh and Penn State alumni.
Maybe Derek.
Hi, I'm Derek. I'm the minute taker and clerk for the Floristry Division. And I met Ellie a little bit through email this morning. So hi in person.
Iwi?
Hello, my name is Yiwei, Y-I-W-E-I. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened to my to my note here. I'm a forestry intern working with Lisa, Derek, and Michael. It's amazing to be here. Also help with notes today, the last maybe the last time taking the notes. And thank you for meeting all.
Andrea?
Hi, I missed the beginning. but I guess we're just introducing our role in the Shade Tree Commission.
Yeah, we brought on Allie as our new intern.
Oh,
And stayed
okay.
So we're all saying hello.
Okay, great. Hi, Allie. I'm Andrea Ketzel. I'm the senior landscape architect in the Department of Public Works.
Roy. No, we're introducing ourselves real quick.
Okay. All right, my turn.
Yep.
Hi guys. This meeting was kind of unexpected. I only have a few minutes to hop on. I actually got a staff meeting at 9:30. I will be. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can. A little bit. You're buzzing out.
Yeah, well, there's 8 people on the internet right now. My kids are all in school.
No worries.
Guys, I actually have a staff meeting at 9:30. I will be joining back at around 10, if possible. This was kind of moved around and unexpected for today. But anyway, I'm Roy Blankenship. I've recently just been added on to the Shade Tree Commission. The work they're doing, I've been studying up on everything, and I'm just in love with the idea of having to do with the city's treescape and providing new vegetation and fresh things to the city. There's a lot of areas from my studies that could use this commission's assistance, and I'm just happy to be able to try to do some great work with you guys.
Awesome. Nazine?
Hi, I'm Nazine Nejad. I'm also new to the commission. I joined in February. I'm a project architect at URA, Urban Redevelopment Authority, City of Pittsburgh.
Amy? Jamie, can you hear us?
Oh, hi, I'm Jamie Holloway. I work with various nonprofit organizations, and I am the community representative on the Shade Tree Commission.
Kiva?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Rockweed Bay. I'm on the Shade Tree Commission since last summer. I'm also the executive director of the Black Urban Gardeners and Farmers of Pittsburgh Co-op. And congratulations, Roy, on the Men of Excellence Award. Yay!
Thank you. Yeah, they just airing it live now, so.
Well deserved.
I think, Jim, did you go already? Jim Barry?
I probably talked, but no. Hi, everybody. Jim Barry, Senior Manager of Veg Management at Duquesne Light.
Hilltop Alliance with Community Development.
Hi, Allie, and welcome. Go State.
And then we've met Lisa as our city forester, and Alicia is in the mayor's office, who you've already been acquainted with. And I think that was everybody.
Brian, is Mr. Woliniak here? He shows up on my screen, but I don't see him.
Yeah, I'm here. I don't have my camera on. I'm under the weather today, so gonna stay off camera if that's okay. I work with Penn State Extension as urban and community forestry educator there.
And do we get Mr. Kelly, though he is not necessarily,
Hi, I'm Michael. I'm the utility arborist here at the city. Not actually on the Shade Tree Commission. I just talk a lot here.
Sorry, I missed the bottom row on my screen, but
was that
I think that's
everyone?
Could we introduce
Oscar Bay
Josiah?
just
Do you
arrived.
introduce yourself as a guest?
I didn't hear you, Alicia. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to see if Josiah would introduce himself. Hey, Josiah.
Hi, everybody. Good morning and happy Thursday. I work with Alicia in the mayor's office in the Office of Equity. And I attended one of these meetings in person, what seems like a lifetime ago, and it's good to be back. So good to be with everybody.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Rebecca. Was nobody else has been missed?
Oh, you know what, Dr. Bay, I saw you pop up.
He is in the middle of my screen right now, and it looks like he's back in Pennsylvania.
Back in Pennsylvania. I've got a couple of trees in the ground in the last week or so I'm excited. Former Shade Tree Commissioner, still around in Pittsburgh and working the Urban Kind Institute and any place else where we need somebody to rattle cages around being more just and equitable.
Thank you, Jamil. Thank you, Dr. Bay. All right, so then we will move on to the public comment section of our meeting. Christine is here and doing her public comments now.
I don't have any. I was just tending to listen, but good morning, everyone.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning. Was there anyone that wanted to add a public comment to the meeting?
I will say I really appreciate you you making this space available in your meetings, though. I think it's a great change. So thanks.
Thank you, Christine. All right, bear with me. Usually I have two computer screens, but I am at home, so I only have one. So the next thing on the agenda item is the approval of our April minutes. Were you folks able to take a peep at that today to provide comments and changes that need to be made?
Kristen, this is Matt. Two issues I had with the April minutes. There is the corrections for the March minutes at the top of the April minutes. And we still did not input who made the motion to approve Lisa's pruning funds. So that needs to be added, I think, before we can approve those minutes. And then there's another comment in there about Lisa asking to set aside $100,000 and remove WPC. I don't know if set aside gets confused with earmarked, with encumbered, all those other financial terms that we use. So maybe we can just say remove WPC from the priorities list instead of making references to specific dollar figures.
Thank you, Matt. I thought that I had removed that from the priorities list, so my mistake. I will be sure to make that correction.
So until we know who made the motion to approve Lisa's pruning money, I would make a motion to table these minutes until next month, until we have that figured out.
All right, Matt, thank you for making the motion. Would anyone like to second the motion?
Do we have any other changes before we table them? I think would be the next question, right? Did we get through all of them? And if there are changes we can make, can we make those before we put them on the table? I had a question regarding the Duquesne Light piece of this, where limiting removals or extensive removals that Michael stated, and that's just for my information more than anything else, since I was unable to attend.
So,
Oh, that was just discussion on work we'd been doing up on Spring Hill and the Hill District to identify trees that had possibly been over aggressively marked by ACRT. Colleen and I have been going through a few that we were able to save in terms of keeping canopy in high value neighborhoods. All good news.
I agree. Just looking at the verbiage of how it was worded is all, since it's a public record, if you would. So we're able to suggest verbiage changes to this, or is this like verbatim?
no, and what did you want to suggest, Jim?
I'll work with Mike to put something in there.
All right, and then will you send it to, the powers that be?
Derek, yeah, Derek, yourself, Lisa, Michael. And we
Thank
can
you.
get it in for the table talk in June.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. So then with Jim making the verbiage changes for the minutes, we will then bring these back up in June if somebody seconds the motion and we vote on it. Does anybody want to second the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Lisa seconding the motion. All right, is all of the Shade Tree Commission members in approval? Raise your hands. Does any members abstain? Raise your hands. I don't see anybody. I'm going to say motion approved for June to bring up the minutes with the corrected notations for approval. Matt made the motion, Lisa seconded, all approved. Next item on the agenda. Quiba and Jamie.
So we really didn't have an opportunity to meet. So I don't know, Cleva, if you want to table this till the next meeting.
Yes, can we table it till the next meeting, please? Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, guys, making that for June meeting. All right. Next agenda item is reports. This one is for members of forestry, members of Tree Pittsburgh, as well as Duquesne Light and or other utilities. Would anyone care to share any reports?
I
from
can
any of those
go.
agencies?
So City Forestry is just reporting out that we had a pruning demonstration for some potential pruning candidates that could be hired on for the city. That was last week. We had 4 candidates we have actually 5 open spots and 4 candidates that we have that applied to the city for the position. So I'm excited to say that those actual tests will be on June 8th next week. or I'm sorry, the first week in June. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm sad to report, though, that we did lose one of our pruners at the city who's been with us for over 13 years, Mark Pearson. He died suddenly, and he's been a big part of our forestry family. So sad to report that. Other than that, we're working on our capital budget, making requests for equipment. We're looking to try to get electric chainsaws this year. Also doing some upgrades to the building as far as having outdoor storage for some of our chippers. Keeping our fingers crossed that we can get some equipment approved, and pretty much wrapping up the fall details for planting, or the spring details for planting. Working on a lot of the behind the scenes stuff for the permitting with the city's Computronics and Cartograph system. So we're getting close to that, and working on policies and procedures for other programs that we're working on that I'll be reporting back out to you. So that's all we have right now.
Thank you, Lisa.
On the utility coordination, we have a number of lead line projects going on where we've been doing follow-up to make sure that routes are being adequately protected, as well as the Jurassic Valley work that PWSA is going to be doing. We just went through and did a site assessment with Peoples Gas, and have very minimal tree impact that's going to occur in that project. I think it's a grand total of 5 removals over the entire gas line.
What was the name of that project, Mike?
Jurassic Valley. They're putting a new park and stormwater catchment. And I think we have the Aspenwall Clearwell renovations that are going on, and we have a field visit with them tomorrow.
I have a couple updates. First, good news. We got $100,000 towards our electric bucket truck for Lisa. So we are now $100,000 closer to an electric bucket truck. We still have another grant out there. I think it's for $160,000. We've been trying to poke the state DEP to see when we're going to hear back about that. But so I think what's happening is that if we get that extra grant, then we probably won't need the Shade Tree Commission support. But if we don't get that extra grant, then we're still requesting funding from the Shade Tree Commission. We had originally, I think, committed 150 or 100,000.
160. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we're just trying to scrap together as much funding as we possibly can. And if the Shade Tree Commission could help make up the difference, then that would be great. I know Lisa's regular pickup truck is also on the docket for replacement for electric. So our EV task force is looking into installing some electrical chargers there, EV chargers there. So at Forestry. So that's exciting. My other update is we've been working on a Hazelwood Greenway restoration grant, which is going swimmingly. We all met at the Hazelwood Greenway yesterday to talk about locations that we would put some relief and tree vitalized trees. So that's pretty exciting. But that's it. That's all I got.
That is super exciting, and congratulations. Mr. Erb, would you care to share? I rhymed.
Our staff is out watering trees. We had a wet spring up until the last week, and things are extremely dry. So anything newly planted this spring is in need of water right now. We just hired a new community tree specialist at Tree Pittsburgh. Kelsey Munsick is just on board starting this week. So we're excited to have her. She's going to be working on our relief projects in Lawrenceville, Manchester, and Hazelwood over the next year and a half. And we did just receive funding to do an updated 2020 tree canopy analysis. So we're going to have 2010, 2015, and 2020 tree canopy data showing canopy loss and gain throughout the Pittsburgh region. So we hope to have that out by December. And then also part of that grant is to update the Pittsburgh Urban Forest Master Plan. So next summer, it'll be 10 years since that plan came out. So this this summer, we're going to kick off a update process in anticipation of that 10-year anniversary and having a new release next year of an updated vision and plan for Pittsburgh's urban forest.
Hey, Matt, what was the 3 neighborhoods that the coordinator is going to be working in?
Manchester, Lawrenceville, and Hazelwood.
All right, thank you.
That's all really exciting news. Thank you so much for sharing. Anybody else have anything they want to add to this part of the agenda? Or Andrea?
Yeah, I was just gonna jump in.
Please jump.
So a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago, I guess, Kristen had asked me to give just a quick update on the Homewood Park project. So we did kick off a project in the Homewood community for at Homewood Willie Sturgill Field. So we'll be doing a new regulation size football field with stormwater management underneath. We'll be relocating the existing pool to accommodate the size of that football field, and also building a new bathhouse and concession stand and locker room facility for the field as well. We'll be installing a new playground facility, as well as what we're calling a cultural space, which will be kind of across the street from the library and Afro-American music museum, and some of the other facilities along Hamilton Avenue. So that project is currently in schematic design. I'll be receiving those documents on Friday or tomorrow of this week to review. We had a really positive turnout for our first community engagement event. We did that in, I want to say, let's see, March, April. What month is it? It's May now, so April. And then we'll be having a second event in June with the community. So lots of opportunities for tree planting there. I've already reached out to Lisa and Danielle at Tree Pittsburgh to kind of get this on the radar for trees and plantings. Our schedule for construction would be, we're hoping to go out to bid of June of next year and start sometime in the summer. So that's what we're looking at there. And then other updates, we're going to be working on our capital requests here in June. I don't know that anyone's spoken to the park tax yet, but we're looking at where that money might go, and specifically have a line item there for trees, $100,000 per year, as a continuing line item for tree plantings. That being said, we had $70,000 in the budget for last year, and I believe Tree Pittsburgh submitted that request, and there was a little bit of confusion because it did come from Tree Pittsburgh about whether that was going to be matched with a grant. So we're trying to just get clarity around whether we actually have that money. But I think in the future, maybe, I don't know, the request should come from either forestry or DPW so that we have that money there available for us to spend, and then letters of support or whatever from Tree Pittsburgh and the commission in support of that. So that's all I've got.
Andrea, I have a question. What organizations are you working with in Homewood?
Mainly Homewood Community Sports, and relying on Mubarak to really get the word out on the events that we're planning. But I think we found out at this last event that there were residents surrounding the park that didn't necessarily feel like they were in the loop on the project. And so we're always looking for, additional resources to get the word out about the events so that we're really encompassing everyone's preferences and feedback for the park.
Okay, I'm gonna put my email in the chat and give
Yes.
you the information for an event.
Okay,
And when are you looking to do this tree planting around?
I would say it would vary. I mean, the total park investment is $12 to $14 million. It's a huge park renovation. So we could start planting anywhere from next fall into the spring. So I'll have more details as the project progresses, but I'll definitely keep you in the loop. And I'll also paste the Engage PGH site for the project in the chat so that anyone who's interested can follow that page as well. And my contact information is there. Do we have a chat on this?
So yeah, because of the meeting system, the chat is disabled legally. So if you guys, just want to send that big old email chain that I love to send to you guys so often, that would be cool. I mean, would that be cool with you guys?
Yeah, I'll follow up with an email with that page information, and then Rakib, if you want to just email me your, I should have your email address, but touching base on the side never hurts either. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, you guys. So I feel like we've been talking about canopy impacts, but that is our next item on the agenda. Does anyone have anything they want to contribute to that agenda item before we move on to the next agenda item?
I don't have anything new to update other than, what's going on down at the Forum I'll Run and the Commercial Boulevard Bridge at Frick Park. Probably next month we'll have more information. Mike and I have a meeting tomorrow with PWSA around another project that they're doing that may impact some tree canopy. So, but other than that, there's nothing new to report.
Thank you, Lisa. All right. The next item would be the Shade Tree Trust Fund update. Where is Alicia?
Hi there.
Hi, sorry.
Wanted to give a couple of small updates, but first give the context of our funding. The funding in the Shade Tree Trust Fund comes primarily from two sources. The first being the transit shelter contract that the city holds with Gateway Outdoor Advertising. So the ads that you see in bus shelters, the money generated from those comes back to the city and comes to the Shade Tree Trust Fund. Something that Lisa and I have been working with the city's Office of Management and Budget and the administration in the Department of Public Works is better tracking the alternative compliance funds that come to the city when developers are unable to meet greening standards. So we have made great headway with that. We have a interdepartmental tracking sheet at this point, and can have a very clear reports of which project the money came from, where it is in some city bureaucracy, and at what point it'll hit. It'll be reflected in the total of our trust fund. And then I also just wanted to note, further context, and we put some of this in the first edition of our handbook that we adopted in February, that all of our expenditures must be approved by majority vote of the commission, and then subsequently follow city processes for competitive solicitations or a waiver of competitive solicitations according to city code Title I, Article 7, Chapter 161, contracts. When we get to new business, I wanted to bring up an idea of spending that I would like to, be able to make a motion at our June meeting, but I'll wait till we get there.
Thank you, Alicia. Mr. Erb?
Alicia, I seem to recall there was like a delay in getting the Gateway Shelter funds deposited in our account. Do you know if the 2019, 2020 funds have been transferred into the Shade Tree Trust Fund?
They're going to be retroactively put in there, like almost according to a payment plan, that the contract with them has been executed, I think as of, I don't know the date as of. In the new, everything is happening in real time now, and they'll be working to retroactively get that in there. Angie Martinez, who's our right-of-way coordinator in the Department of, in DOMI, what does DOMI even stand for? Mobility and Infrastructure, is the account or the contract account person. So I've been getting updates from her.
What is the name of the fund from Gateway?
It's the ad shelter funding.
So it's not Lamar?
So whenever that was the purpose of the new contract, it used to be Lamar. And when it went back out to bid, Gateway Outdoor Advertising was selected as the new company. And with, as Matt mentioned, with that transition, there were some hiccups.
There was also more money though that will retroactively eventually be there. So
are we still getting the 80,000 or the 100,000, or did that price increase? It's 100.
It's 100. Anything else, you guys? Before we move on to the next item. All right, so it is 9:42 and we are going to start under agenda item of old business.
I don't have an agenda in front of me. I'm sorry. Can you tell me, is there anything?
Can we discuss any updates on the tree equity strategy?
Sure. Yes. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. Yeah. So actually, Dr. Bay, thankfully, I'm so glad that you're on. Participating today, was on a call with Michael Kelly to just sort of finalize some information around the data sets that we collected to get to the top 10 neighborhoods that we're going to be focusing on. And I think we're very, very close to that. Super excited to be reporting that. And one of the things that's been holding us up is that there is another study that we're waiting on getting, that's a more national study that we are trying to sort of overlay onto our information. But I'm proud to say that we're really close to announcing the top 10 neighborhoods, and I'm really hoping that we can start doing some planting this fall. So I can segue over to Michael to get into the particulars of the matrix or whatever, if anybody has any particular questions. But other than that, or maybe Dr. Bay might want to comment on some of the information that Michael and he discussed around the options that we're going to be going with. But that's all I have to really report on it until we're ready to announce. So Dr. Bay, do you have any comment on that, or Michael?
No specific comment other than the idea that, I mean, we can tweak and analyze, until kingdom come. But, I think where we are with the way that Mike looked at this, we struck a balance between the areas of greatest need, the potential for transformative change, opportunities for workforce development, with community partners, and, impact for improving these neighborhoods and all the things that trees do. And, we can split them. We can pick between the 6 list and the 6 options. The overlap is, I think, is greater than 90%. And so it's just a matter of, let's get started. Pick one and roll with it. I like option 1 because it was first. But if you said, okay, let's do option 2, I'll argue with you. Because, whether Knoxville ranks higher than Spring Garden, but they're both in the top 10, it doesn't matter. Let's get to work.
Okay.
Get into the specifics.
Okay.
The process and the fact, the focus and the emphasis that we have now, that these neighborhoods, with the deliberate engagement about why and how trees are going to improve and contribute to goals and priorities that people in these neighborhoods already have. They're just not connecting to trees as the opportunity.
Okay, great. Well, I guess then one of the roles Allie's going to take on for us while she's interning is doing the outreach to those top neighborhoods that we're selecting, and just to find out about community groups, opportunities for us to go and speak to the neighborhood, talk to them about the potential of getting trees on their street, and how we can partner with some of those initiatives. And so, Michael, I guess then, we can announce those 10 neighborhoods, or we could just, send them out to the subcommittee so everybody's intact. But I guess if you want to talk to those top 10 neighborhoods that keep repeatedly come up in any matrix that we run, we can announce those and we can get to work.
Right. I would feel most comfortable running it directly through the subcommittee so that the announcement can come from people who are actually on the commission.
Well, I think if you just want to mention those neighborhoods, because we're not going to be able to meet again until June. So, you can just talk to the neighborhoods that keep, bubbling up to the surface. It doesn't mean we need to have an official ruling on it today, but it'll help us keep things moving forward.
All right, here we go. Sorry, I have to manually unmute for this one. So generally across the options that I've developed, we have 5 different ranking structures that give us the top 10 and top 20 neighborhoods that have the highest level of need and we'll just say the lowest scores in terms of tree canopy and other assets that we are able to address. And across these, the most common neighborhoods are California, Kirkbride, Homewood, North, South, and West. We have Knoxville, Arlington Heights, Larimer, Esplin, Mount Oliver. Those generally occur most frequently across the top 10 for all of them, as well as Middle Hill. So we will have depending on which specific one of these options we pick, those will be our neighborhoods. And across this, between phase 1 and phase 2, we will cover all of the most in need communities within the city.
Could you repeat those communities again, Mike?
We can get them to you, Derek. We can send them to you.
And beyond that, I'm currently working on a very rough framework for what a sample report will be for each of these neighborhoods that I believe is something we'll be working on with Allie. And so that's going to have the rough framework that says, like, this is what the status of the resources are. It's loosely patterned off of the plans that were done by Tree Pittsburgh for Manchester and Chateau. But it will not have nearly as much detail about the planning and execution process because, of course, we will need to conduct extensive community outreach and engagement in order to ensure that the plans that we want to execute in that neighborhood are to the benefit of the community and address their specific needs and desires. So that'll be, one of those will be forthcoming. And once we get a rough shape for that, we can put out the remainder of the reports and then begin working on the things that can be done independent of community outreach. Like, for example, clearing backlogs of work orders in these communities that we just need to do anyway while we're doing the community outreach to develop the appropriate projects for these regions.
So basically, our next task will be working on individual relief plans for each neighborhood. So as Michael said, we can look at our outstanding 311s, take the tree inventory data, see what trees we need to do, what we can do in-house, what things we can do for contract, and just basically coming up with an individualized plan specific to those neighborhood needs with the engagement of the appropriate community members. So, you know, I'm excited to say that, you know, we'll be able to get some trees in the ground come this fall. So, yeah, and we'll be reporting back as we make some progress.
And so if, once we nail down those neighborhoods, said if we can coordinate, you know, we've developed an initiative for engaging communities around trees about that part. And I don't want to, you know, back to the equity plan. Remember, our goal and desire was to looking for opportunities to get folks in those communities on the pathway for forestry jobs. And so we were looking to make, how are we developing this workforce? We have a shortage.
Right.
There's an opportunity. What does that look like? So this is not just us planting more trees in the neighborhoods. It's looking for opportunities to build up capacity for tree infrastructure.
Exactly. And the biggest factor is the maintenance, you know, and that is concerning. And that is where we have the most opportunity to create more jobs. So, yep.
And just so that we have this officially on the record, one of the recommendations in each section of the report is going to be identifying areas where we can integrate community employment and community long-term maintenance to create green jobs in these areas.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Two comments, just as a member of the equity subcommittee, I know that there's an outstanding Google poll. I'm looking forward to the next meeting. I don't know when that poll is going to close. And also, implementation discussion. You know, a lot of these steps are being made, and I hope that the whole subcommittee in that discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Matt. My apologies. I'm not sending out the updated doodle poll yet. I was on vacation until yesterday. And I'm still on. So once we get off that meeting, I will update the doodle poll and send that out, and then we will move along, because I am pretty sure that everybody did respond to that doodle poll at the end of last week.
Yeah, I also want to report too, just for an item of just a note, that when the mayor announced the plan, our goal was to announce the top 10 neighborhoods that we would be focusing our efforts on by Arbor Day. So I did, as forced to report to the mayor's office, that we are, you know, have the subcommittee, that we have been collecting the data. We're just cross-checking and just verifying information, and that we were very close to doing that. And so just keeping it on task with what we were tasked, you know, to do as the commission. So I did report that out, and I just want to, you know, put that for the record that, you know, we just got to keep working forward and get this moving. So anyway, okay.
I'm sorry, I need to jump off to my next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nadine.
Thanks. See you later.
All right. So I also sent out this morning an updated priorities document. Are we ready to hopefully make any notations before we can make a motion and second a motion?
Sorry, Lisa, can you mute? Because I think there's a little bit of feedback coming through. Thanks.
Are you guys ready to go through the priorities? Or not go through it, but if anyone needs to make a comment, suggestion, please make it now so it can get in there and then we can vote on it. Please, dear God.
I have a comment. I just think that we, had an opportunity to look at it, and unless there's a specific issue that somebody wants to discuss, I don't know how necessary it is to go through every single item line by line. The one thing that I would want to say, though, is that with I want to reserve the right to come back to the commission at some point to maybe ask for some funding for tree planting, and just, I know that's not listed as a priority, but I just want to put it out there that at some point, maybe in the beginning of the year, I might want to come back and do that as a forester. So just putting that out there. And again, that's my comments on the list. I think it looks great, and we've been working on it and hashing it and rehashing it. So, I mean, in an instance of time, I would think unless there's something specific, that's what I'd recommend.
Lisa, tree planting is a priority on that list. Funding tree planting is on that.
Yeah, but I mean, in addition to that, because I don't know what, I just want to reserve the right that if we need additional funding is what I'm getting at, that I want to be able to come back to the commission for consideration for that.
Kristen, the only change I have would be to add the species subcommittee, the subcommittee list that's put on there. I'm the chair of that committee. We aren't, even though we have an updated list of 2020, our goal is to meet annually just to make any changes necessary. So our task is never complete.
Thank you for pointing it out. I will make those notations on the priorities document. And Lisa, I'm with you. We are not going through it word by word. This is the 5th time that this has been gone through. So I really hope that people were able to read it. And now I'm not allowed to, I don't think, make a motion to vote on this. So if somebody else would like to make that motion, so we could please move forward, that would be. And yes, Lisa, you are always here for asking for more trees, because that is something that we definitely support, as we do. Cool.
Okay, I'm making a motion to accept the priorities list as submitted for the Shade Tree Commission, reserving the right to come back and ask for additional funding for tree planting if necessary.
I'll second that if Lisa amends her motion to include the edits that I suggested.
To include the edits that Matt suggested, I'll make a motion to accept the list as provided with the edits Matt suggested, and my right to be able to come back and ask for additional tree money for tree.
All right, that was awesome. And let's see if we can all vote on this to approve. So hands up to approve or abstain. Is there anybody that it looks like everyone is approving? If I can see you. If not, please, in a few seconds, unmute yourself and say that you do not support this. So does anyone not support this? Moving to accept the motion proposed by Lisa to accept with notes and Matt's edits and her right to come back and ask for some tree money, with nobody against it, everybody for it, and no one abstained. Motion has passed. Priorities are done for 2021. Sorry, guys, that was really exciting. It seemed like it'd been very difficult to get that. So thank you. And moving on in old business, Alicia, you wanted to do new business, I believe. Was there any other old business before we go to new business, folks? Mr. Bay, Dr. Bay?
No, I was just jumping off out
Okay.
at 10 o'clock. So
Okay, thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon. Look. All right, Matter of / Joe Stavish. All right, so moving on to new business. I'm gonna step away for a second because the dog is whining. And when I come back for new business, did Rebecca or Alicia want to start?
Oh yeah, I can start.
Okay.
It's not really new business. Maybe this is old business, but we were working with an organization called Cambium Carbon on a study. They've completed a first draft, so it's not totally public yet. But basically what they looked at was they analyzed our wood recycling operations for efficiencies. And then they also looked at our opportunities around carbon markets and accessing carbon credits for some of the city properties. So they've produced a report, which I'm happy to share with everybody. I'm also happy to set up a time for them to go through the nitty-gritty details with any commissioners that are interested. Basically, their recommendations are to establish an organic recycling center within the city, to support the market for urban wood through city procurement, improve data collection for wood salvage. So these are, they were very focused on like the larger diameter removals that could then be used for milling or furniture making or something like that. And then number 4 was to develop a carbon offsetting program, which basically would look at city properties and see if we and start to make the applications for.
What was number 2? I'm sorry.
Derek, I can send this to you too. It was the support the market for urban wood through city procurement. So doing things like when we're doing like a construction project or something, putting out the specifications that we're reusing wood or using urban wood. So the report's super interesting. It goes through, it analyzes the number of tree removals that we do annually. It tried to scan, or some data that comes out of zoning to see what the diameter might be for tree removals. Makes the business case for, a milling operation here. A couple of interesting statistics that came out of it is that the city could capture up to $403,000 in annual lost economic value from fallen trees. So that takes into account like our current contracts that we have and what we do with the wood currently, which is chip it. And then carbon revenues was really interesting. The low hanging fruit there was to look at Hayes Woods, which is our largest new park. And we could get an estimated value of $660,000 just for having preserved that as a park. So there's a lot of opportunity there to look at not just, Hayes Woods, but also our greenways system, adding parcels into the greenways. There's also restoration credits. So there's a couple of different avenues that you can take. And if you're interested in learning more about it and going through the report specifically, just send me an email and I'm happy to send this report around too. It's still a draft.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Quiba is not here, and I know that she would be interested in this because I remember when they gave the first presentation, she had to jump off or wasn't able to attend. So I want to make sure that she knows about it.
Cool. I'll follow up with an email to everyone.
You're awesome. Thank you.
Over to me, is that all right? Okay, so also on the note of new business that is kind of also old. So I'd mentioned during the trust fund update that, or alluded to the handbook, the member handbook that we had adopted in February. There was a lot of desire to further delineate our processes and, put that in writing, formalize it somehow. We are still in the process of determining some of those processes. Yay. Everything from, so Matt Erb had brought up formalizing how we determine our priorities, how it is that we work with the city's budget office and procurement, clarifications around voting by email in the time of COVID. So if you, so sorry, what am I trying to say? So I am going to be reviving the handbook subcommittee and taking on the temporary role as chair of that subcommittee. So if you have questions or ideas on member participation, or if you are a stickler for rules, I would love if you could express interest in joining, and perhaps we could meet before July, even though we'll be off in July, and have something have something in place for that. Would anyone want to express interest right now?
I'll be interested in reviewing that, because I'm also doing some of that sort of with Assistant Director Newman around policies and procedures for some of those types of things also. And we don't meet in July, just a reminder. So we would have time to work on it now, maybe in August.
I'll join, Alicia.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Matt.
What, Alicia, this is Jim. What, could you just briefly describe that again? I was transferring to my phone, sorry.
So when we had when we approved our first commission handbook, there was a lot to still be figured out, but we wanted to kind of lay the foundation to figure that out and build on it. So we're ready. This is the member handbook, the sequel, part 2. Well, that's what a sequel means.
I'll join. Put me on her.
Thanks, Jim. So in that kind of same vein, when we'd worked on that, we outlined some of the things that have to happen, the tasks that have to happen in order to keep the commission effectively humming. For a long time, we had relied on our previous chair to be scrappy and figure a lot of things out and kind of be the institutional knowledge behind this. So in trying to get that all on paper, it became pretty clear, at least to me, and I've been harping on this for a bit, that this is actually a job description. This, especially seeing now how much time Kristen has been putting into this volunteer service position. I mean, it wasn't difficult to do. It was mostly copying and pasting the leadership roles that we had tried to establish. So beyond the chair, a vice chair, a recording secretary formally, financial secretary or treasurer, and an outreach coordinator. So all of those tasks from those 5 different positions are actually a job description. So I had written something up and reviewed it internally. And I'm asking HR to do a salary evaluation for that and what that dollar amount attached could look like. And I'd like to be able to present on that a little bit more thoroughly at our June meeting, and be prepared to make a motion to ask the commission to support funding that position. That is, a lot of to be determines in there. I'm not going to be able to be on this commission forever. And I want to make sure that all of the good things that we have going, all of the momentum that we've started can be sustained in a way that isn't continuing to add a lot of work onto people's workloads who already have a lot of work. And we've seen in the past few months, we've been able to make great headway on some of our longstanding priorities. So I want to fiercely advocate for this. And at the same time, as we are looking at evaluating a salary for a potential dedicated staffer for the commission, I would also like to reevaluate Mike Kelly's salary, who, the commission funds our utility arborist, to see about better matching his salary to the work that he is doing. And that would look like updating the job description and connecting to HR on seeing what that dollar amount should be to pay, at least in part what he is worth. And not just worth, the value that he provides to the whole city. Tasks, to-dos, lists. And if it's helpful, I'm happy to share, I'm happy to reshare that first draft that we had adopted. It's about 10 pages, pretty spicy though. It's a quick read, lots of pictures and appendices, figure of tables. To reshare that and get a better sense of the different duties that it takes to, keep this organization essentially effective and relevant.
Thank you, Alicia, for all of that, the work that you do every day around the clock, and for seeing that there is a lot of work that it takes to make the commission run at all. To backtrack a few seconds to the member handbook, I think Rebecca and myself and maybe Andrea were also on the first subcommittee. I don't know if you folks want to still be on it for this round of revisions, but if you do, let us know now. Alicia, I will also like to support that member handbook and be a part of the subcommittee. If you guys are ever not at a meeting because you had to leave for another meeting and there's a subcommittee that you didn't or weren't able to volunteer for in the past and you want to be a member of it, please, let us know, because, it takes a village for everything, and more help would be lovely.
Yeah, I'm happy to join. Can I make a couple of comments about staffing positions too? They're just looking at some of the other commissions, there are always dedicated staff people, or most often dedicated staff people. The Planning Commission has one, the Pension Fund has one, Zoning Hearing Board, the Historical Commission. So it's not totally out of left field. I think that there's a lot of precedence for that with city staffing positions. The other thing that I've noticed, and I'm just saying this because I've had an evolution in my own thought about funding staffing positions through the Shade Tree Commission that I thought might be helpful to share. But I was going through the budget recently for a grant application that I was working on, but noticed that a lot of the trust funds for parks actually staff a lot of our DPW positions. So there's just a lot of precedence when you kind of measure what we do in the Shade Tree Commission and with our Shade Tree Trust Fund to those other trust funds and to those other departments that staff staff the commissions. So I'm supportive of it, and I think it's a good idea, and I'm happy to show you the references that I have noticed if anyone's interested.
Thanks for that, Rebecca. Yeah, and I do. I don't want to undervalue or not acknowledge the work that a lot of us, put in as volunteer. Well, I'm a paid city staffer, but put in the volunteer hours to, send doodle polls, put meetings together, chair subcommittees. It's a lot of work, and I want to be able to write that out and have something to show for it.
I just want to say I'm in support of it also. I mean, when Marty was the chair, when Marty Iser was the chair, Kristen has a full-time position that she's managing, at the Arboretum. So it does take, some time to, put all this stuff together. And I think as we move forward with implementing the social equity plan, there's more opportunities for, for additional, workload that's going to come down our way. So I think it's a good idea. So I'm all in favor for any kind of time we can get help, because in the past it's just been a juggling act, and which, also is part of the reason why we're trying to figure out these processes now, because there just really, frankly, wasn't anybody there to do it before. I was doing the best I could on top of managing our day-to-day operations and everything else we had going on at forestry. And Marty, being a volunteer, she did what she could do. But it's really somebody, at this point could be assigned to help us and really get it, up to where it needs to be.
Yeah, I'm wondering, I know you spoke with, our acting director, and also, Kinsey about the position, and they were also supportive of it. If funding was an issue, also we could look at the park tax money too, because that money is supposed to be supporting additional staff and things like that. So I have a hard enough time filling out a doodle poll. I really recognize the work that you guys are doing to keep this afloat, and it is potentially a second full-time job for someone. So thanks for everything you're doing, and I'm also in support of it.
Thanks you guys for coming out and saying support and saying that there was precedence in the, everything that I feel like we've been trying to get through this year is making everything public and showing, I love your mug, Andrea, and showing, how we got there, and to make sure that T's are crossed and I's are dotted. So Rebecca, if you wouldn't mind, maybe putting that information on to Alicia's document, that way if somebody is looking for it, they can find it.
Sure, totally happy to.
Thank you. Folks, more comments, questions, concerns?
If I could add to, as far as a more direct question to ponder and provide feedback on, Kristen, if it's okay with you, I'll send what we have, and we could circulate it, and you're welcome to add comments, things that you would like to see, or that you could anticipate the entire commission benefiting from, to more directly focus on. This is I can't remember how I described it to you, Lisa. Some ingredients, we almost have a recipe. We're nowhere close to turning the oven on, or whatever extended metaphor for baking, to put this all together. Yeah.
I do support the position. I think it would be very helpful. It does take a lot of time. There is a lot of back and forth with all the budget office and city departments. I do have a big concern about funds, just that our annual income is $100,000 a year, and half of that goes to Michael Kelly. So a second position would essentially take us down to $0 a year to use on other projects. So that would be my big issue. And I would like to see if there's other ways that the city could help fund this position and make it happen.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned the park tax, because not that it's just money everywhere, but that's one of the things that, we are supposed to be supporting with this funding is additional staff, because we don't have the staff needed in DPW and forestry and a lot of our city departments to manage, what we have. And I can start that discussion with Chris, Alicia, and see, since he is in support of it, if we can add that to our, list of, if you have a salary in mind, also, I don't know if you've discussed that with, but we can talk.
HR is doing the evaluation. I actually have a meeting with our public works business partner in HR this afternoon to go over that further. It's a lot of paperwork. It's super fun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to add too that, not that I don't think we desperately need a position on the Shade Tree Commission, to help us, but I also kind of feel from the operations perspective that if we're going to get funding for the parks tax, we desperately need pruners and drivers and people to actually take care of the trees. So I just want to make sure our priorities are right, and I don't want to, jeopardize that at all. I'm just going to throw that out there. So, but I'm in support of the position. So thanks.
Yeah, Andrea, whenever you initiate, thank you for doing that. Whenever you initiate with our acting public works director, Chris Hornstein, would you perhaps just include me and Lisa in that? And
yeah, absolutely. And when I, not that it's like my call to offer up the park tax, but I am free to make some suggestions where I see a need. And, when I say that, I mean, in addition to what Lisa needs in her staff and also other DPW staff too. So that's a small, in my opinion, a small drop in the bucket compared to, the overall funds.
Small drop in the bucket, but a huge contribution.
Yes,
it would
absolutely.
be huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like I remember when we were approving the utility arborist position that it was after 2 or maybe 3 years, it was going to be rolled up into the DPW budget. Is that right?
I think it's Domi's budget.
Okay.
I think those discussions started in 2015, but I don't have the minutes for that time, but I think it says somewhere in 2016 that the discussion started in Domi. And the title was even a little bit different than utility arborist. And then they came to utility arborist in 2016. And then, like you said, it took 2 years before it was approved by everyone. And then we got Michael last year, right?
Yes, in August. Mm-hmm.
So the Shade Tree Commission would be funding the utility arborist forever. It would be coming out of the budget, right?
That's pretty much how it works, that we get started with it and then there's a commitment, but we have to, as far as the actual operations budget, that would be something we would be addressing in 2022 for the 2023 budget. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just wondering if, if we ended up paying for 2 staffing positions, that we wouldn't always be paying for 2 staffing positions. They would eventually be rolled up into the budget.
That's what we would hope for.
Yeah, that's the ideal. Well, and Kristen, I'm glad you brought up the time that it took from the first idea to, or not the idea, the first ask to hire a utility arborist. I am hell-bent on making sure this position does not take 5 years. So that is my commitment to all of you, and I'm open to questions offline. I will, through Kristen, send out this draft job description. Thank you in advance.
Just one more comment. We do need to do a lot of advocacy if we want to keep the utility arborist position. There is precedent in the past. The Shade Tree Commission funded an urban forestry position in city planning. And once Shade Tree Commission funds were complete, the position was not included in the city budget. So that position no longer exists. So it does take a lot of advocacy to get that position in there and permanent.
Yeah, and also Michael and I have been working on documentation, and so we have a good case for that. So I think we'll be good. But thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Alicia, for creating the job description and doing all of the behind the scenes work and meeting with all of the folks to get this discussion started. And thank you to all of you guys for being supportive and asking and adding different thoughts that may have not come up before. So if no one has anything else to say, we can go to the next item, which is to adjourn. So I was really excited for that because, as you know, I seem to have a lot of time managing the meeting minutes and they've gone over every single time. So it's 10:24 and we actually got through everything. Also because Quiba and Jamie did not present, so thank you guys, but you will be doing that next month. And we are setting up a time in the next few weeks to chat, Jamie and Quiba, though you're not here. And does anyone else have anything they want to say before we move for the meeting to adjourn? I would like to say something. Well, Andrea, real quick, it looks like you had something that you wanted to say. And then before we go off.
Sorry, I just had a question. Will there be, I think I just got the meeting invite for this Thursday. Will you be sending out like one for every Thursday? Just it's nice to have that like hold on the calendar. So since the time changed.
Oh,
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We will send out a new meeting update with the held time for Thursdays from 9 to 10:30. And there will be a link for you guys. And I'm sorry if I say this incorrect, the Great and Powerful Oz, but there will be the YouTube channel. Hold on, let me go back to my notes because I have a lot of notes. So for future meetings, there will be a YouTube channel for people to be able to watch. And that YouTube channel is super easy to remember. I obviously don't. I'm looking for where I wrote it down, but I think Alicia knows what it is. Alicia, could you say what the city YouTube channel is?
The city channel?
Yes.
City Channel Pittsburgh.
City Channel Pittsburgh.
Boom. So for guests that want to watch, they will access that. We will be having the new format with the credentials being sent before every meeting, so that they're always changing. So there will not be a specific link to use for our part of this. So there will be, I believe, just a link for you guys to use, but the meeting credentials change every week, so you can't share them. And then going forward for public comments, we won't be able to use the telephone number that the other folks use, but we will use the Shade Tree email account that has been created last year by Alicia. And if anybody wants to have a public comment at our meeting, they will need to email that address, at least not the morning of. It must be done before that, so that we can get the credentials to the all-powerful Oz, and they will be allowed entry into the meeting. I think I said that all right. Please don't yell at me if I got it wrong. Nobody seems to be jumping up and down and saying that I got it wrong, so I'm going to take your silence as a thumbs up. And my apologies also. I don't understand why, because I have one list that I just pressed that has PSTC folks on it, and for some reason 2 people were left off of the original meeting invite, but when I sent out the agenda, they were on the agenda. So I apologize for missing things, and I'm really appreciative of you folks that were able to reach out, that I was able to talk to while I was in the forest yesterday or through email this morning. So thank you for your patience and understanding. I hope to not say that sometime soon. I also would like to thank everybody that came today from the mayor's office, Josiah. And I believe that we will not be having one of our amazing forestry interns for too much longer as she moves on to her next part of her life. And that big heart goes to you, young lady. You have done so much and been such a wonderful, positive part of this group and helped me and I think everybody. And it has just been wonderful being around you and your energy. And, you know, student gardener Audrey loves you to death. So, you know, I thank, you know, Marcel and Lisa and everybody for bringing you into our tree canopy. And wish you all of the luck and can't wait to hear about what you do as a doctor.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Iwi. Good
Thanks,
luck.
Iwi. Many hearts to you.
Can't wait to hear about you in the future.
Thank you.
Yeah, please keep in touch.
So with that, Mary Savage isn't here. Would someone else like to talk about adjourning the meeting?
I'll
Move to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Meeting has been adjourned. Thank you, all of you.